But I don't think I ever felt like I'm supposed to do anything because of who my dad is. Sometimes I feel the only way that I feel like that is sometimes I feel like there's things I've inherited, and sometimes they say like, I feel like one way to approach looking at how we are is the gifts that we have are part of our blueprint of what we're supposed to be doing on the planet. But now as time goes on, I think like there's things that you get from your legacy, but you don't have to do like an exact parallel of that thing or like a mirror of that thing, right?
Let's get it started.
Double O.
Free range, motherfucker. Yeah. What's going on? What's going on? We are at episode 10. We have made it. We have made it to 10 episodes. I use that as a super benchmark for me for this podcast, and if I would still continue to do it and if I would still enjoy it, and I do. So we're going to keep rocking. This week we have on Novena Carmel, definitely a close friend, but just an inspirational, amazing fixture on the LA music scene. She is the daughter of Sly Stone, but she's never let that really define who she is and who she can be. She's a DJ. She is a host for an event. She is a talent booker for Temple Bar Association, which is a legendary collection of venues in the LA area. And she's also been on stage with Wallpaper as they've traveled the world, doing everything from Lollapalooza to world tours. And yeah, she's just an all-around amazing person. She just started a brand new DJ hosting radio duties on KCRW, which is our very amazing NPR satellite station in Los Angeles that if you've never listened to, you should definitely tune in on the app or just tune in when you're in the area, because so much of the alternative and really interesting music that you often hear on pop radio starts there. So it's an amazing place for her to be. We just talk about not letting your past self and or your natural abilities or family be a burden to you, using the abilities that you realize as you go through life, and allowing them to manifest themselves into whatever way it sees fit to make your life better, not forcing you into a box because other people think that's what you're supposed to do. We touch on something that I think is important to the entire podcast, which was a Seth Godin conversation that I listened to a couple months ago about sunken costs and how oftentimes humans make decisions because they feel like they've put in a certain amount of time and a certain amount of effort into something, whether it be college, whether it be a trade, whether it be a relationship, and understanding that when you're in the position to make that decision, understand that that position is a gift from your past self. The knowledge that you've gained and whether it be schooling or whether it be experience has put you in that position where you can actually make one rather than having not been able to make it because you didn't go down that path. So you're not obligated to continue down the same path simply because you've put in work in the past. Tune in, check it out. I think we have an amazing conversation. There's a lot of jewels to be had. You can follow her on Twitter, Instagram, everything at Novena Carmel, NOVENA CARMEL. And obviously you can follow me, GoDoubleO, GODOUBLE0. Let's get to it. Free Range Podcast.
I think about that sometimes. That's cool that you say that, because I was literally thinking about that today or yesterday, how like everything I get, instead of just going to like Target and getting coasters, it's like, can I get this in a more interesting way? You know?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that I am doing that to an extent.
It's so funny. That's
That's the start of the podcast without even getting into the podcast. It is. No, it's amazing because it will tie in later on into how you live your life in general.
Curated.
Exactly. But
curate your own adventure.
Curate your own adventure. Also, the title of the podcast. We didn't even start it.
I'm your new co-host.
We're
Did
just
you know?
bang, bang, bang. Anthony would be mad. But yes, thank you.
Lose Anthony.
Shout out to Anthony. He's also helped inspire this.
Anthony Valadez.
Valadez.
Yeah. I feel different now. Like we were talking for like an hour now. I'm like, I have to talk differently now.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Although I was listening to something that you guys did on TuneIn the other day, and I always revel in your smooth talking voice.
Oh, yes.
Smooth. Yeah. I was just like, oh.
Well, that's when you have to get closer to the mic to do that.
But how are you doing? Thank you for coming.
Oh, I'm great.
I know. Thank you for coming and really just allowing me into your place.
Literally for the first time. I've lived here for 2 years, and this is your first time here. And
so we should settle that beef first. Why?
Why is it a beef?
Because how have I not been invited? I've lived back in LA. You. No.
I'm really not good at like, I'm good at like the spontaneous thing. Like, oh, you're in town. I'll be home all day. Just come over whenever, you know? Which is why I was like, just come over today.
Yeah.
But I'm not that good. Like I even had like a housewarming thing planned and then I canceled it that week.
So if you don't know, you are tuned into the Free Range Podcast, and we are in with Novena Carmel.
Yes.
Carmel.
Mm-hmm.
Where does that come from? Because that was added since I've known you. So.
Well, that's my middle name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's not. It is. So my mom gave me that middle name, and she was like. She told me that she gave it to me in case I wanted to go with my middle name instead of my first name. She thought it was a nice name. And it's like, you know, there's things called Carmel, like there's a town.
Yeah, that's why I didn't know if it was associated with the town.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I'm not named after the town, but it's that idea. But unfortunately, my mom, she either did or didn't realize that people have a problem with pronouncing the word caramel as caramel. Yeah. And therefore they think caramel is spelled how my middle name is spelled. And so it's not, I'm not a person that like gets annoyed when people pronounce my name wrong or spell it wrong or whatever, but it's annoying the idea that people think maybe I'm naming myself something sweet, like Novena chocolate or something. Like, I don't want anybody to ever think that I'm trying to be cute like that. I am trying to be cute in different ways that I will admit, but not like that.
But people still, even still, they can't help but force you into that box anyway.
Of what box?
Of the little cute little package.
That's what makes it worse. That it seems like, oh, yo, she's like, and like my, you know, maybe I'm caramel, whatever. I don't mind being cute. I just don't want to be called caramel. Okay?
That is settled before we get going. So I realized I know that you do a million different things, but you don't really maybe do like, or even do like a really crazy job of that necessarily being disseminated online. So like when you look up just literally your name, it has a single phrase as all you are defined as and nothing else. I mean, it has interviews or it has you randomly dancing or that thrift shop store thing you did. But like on the side where there's usually like a bio, it just says Sly Stone's daughter. Period.
Where on the side, like on Google or something?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's funny.
And it's so weird because it's just like, you do so much more, but that is just not attached to it.
That's the thing, the most famous thing, I guess. I don't know.
So...
The one thing I did not curate.
The one thing you did not curate. But so getting the curation, do you not care about that? Or are you not worried about...
Do I have an option? Can I change that?
Yeah, you can just have somebody do a Wikipedia page.
Okay. Well, maybe we can do that.
Okay.
That I
you
never...
don't even have like a LinkedIn, do you?
No, I think LinkedIn's are weird. I don't want a LinkedIn. Will that help? Listen, if you can tell me like what I can do to make my online presence in that way more accurate, I'm down. But I just never even thought of that.
Really? So the idea that most of the people you meet immediately like search your name nowadays, you just don't think about that?
I don't know. I just never thought that they're looking it up, and then I didn't realize the first thing and only thing that it says.
Well, that's just the thing that happens on the right side.
I figure like eventually they make it to my Instagram or something like that, which maybe gives them. I mean, I have a website too. I don't think I have a bio on the website, but so yeah. I mean, this is an informative session.
So we'll get those two things together, but starting with the one piece of information that is there.
Yeah.
I always marveled at the fact that you were not like, when we first met, you were not chasing after the artist music dream just because you were Sly's daughter.
Right.
Like it never felt, I know there was a lot of people that tried to probably put that idea on you. I'm sure that at that time I was probably one of them. You know, you should do this and do this.
Yeah.
But was it just something that you never really wanted to do, or you don't stress many things? So that was just another one of the things.
You mean like be an artist? Like a musician, an artist?
Yeah, like I feel like when I've seen sons and daughters of already famous or legendary musicians, they almost feel like it's an obligation to be an artist, or at least try to be an artist in a real way. But I feel like you never carried that with you.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. I've always, I think, naturally been drawn to music. Yeah. And I've always liked to sing. And so, think about that for a second. But I don't think I ever felt like I'm supposed to do anything because of who my dad is. Sometimes I feel the only way that I feel like that is sometimes I feel like there's things I've inherited, and sometimes they say like, I feel like one way to approach looking at how we are is the gifts that we have are part of our blueprint of what we're supposed to be doing on the planet. And so I think that there's some things that I've inherited from my parents that are maybe part of that blueprint. So I'm really conscious to trying to figure out what that is. And I think I've been a natural performer, like on stage, and that was a thing that people would praise me on, is having good stage presence. So I'm like, oh, that must be something I inherited. And if I have good stage presence and not everybody gets that, then I should be doing something with it. It was more like that. Yeah. Like, oh, okay. But now as time goes on, I think like there's things that you get from your legacy, but you don't have to do like an exact parallel of that thing or like a mirror of that thing, right? So like having good stage presence, or even my dad, for example, like he was a musician, a great singer, and performer. But part of what he did also was like connecting with people, relaying messages that were important to people. So I think I have some of that as well. So maybe it's not even being a musician. It's like you have the gift of being in front of people, of connecting with people, of relaying messages. That's part of what you're supposed to be doing. Is it through music? Yeah. Maybe music is part of it, but maybe there's something else that you can do. And like that feels more comfortable to me when it just kind of comes naturally in that way. Was that something that you discovered along the way, or that's like looking back in retrospect that did you realize as you were growing up, like, were you getting reinforced like, 7-year-old me is on stage doing all this stuff? Yeah. Did it feel like people were trying to get you in that direction and it was on you to kind of be like, well, I want to do that, but maybe not that way? Or is this like looking back like, oh, I see these connections now? Yeah. Well, the thing is, I think maybe what happens with people, maybe, I don't know, is they actually grow up in that environment. So, like, they may be going to shows with their parents or the studio, or their parent is, like, rehearsing at home or whatever. I didn't really have that. Like, I was mostly My parents split up when I was like 3, so I was mostly with my mom and my grandfather, who really stressed like all kinds of different things, from like sports to education. So it was none of them were actually like performing or making music. So the natural thing for me actually was more to like make my grandfather proud, which was to be good scholastically, you know? And then also I remember from being really young is I never wanted to come across like a person, and I still don't to this day, of like name dropping.
Yeah.
And it's hard because sometimes I realize that it can be, in a certain sense, useful just to like let people know how you're connected to something. But that's challenging for me. So I think even when I did make music, it was like I didn't want to like harp too much on like, I don't know, Sly Stone's daughter type thing. But then I also recognize that it might make me stand out in a certain way. So, but all this wisdom stuff, like of recognizing, oh, you know, if you have this gift, maybe you should do something different with it. A lot of that is more recent.
Okay.
Like within the last, you know, just years of being an adult and reflecting and becoming more comfortable with myself, you know.
You know, because I, you know, from the length of time that we've known each other, I've watched the navigation of finding ways to be a part of the music industry and all these, but without having to, but doing it your own way. Mm-hmm. I've always envied that because I'm just like, I feel like sometimes I feel like being an artist. It's like a weird disease that you just can't get rid of, and it's just like the thing that you have to do.
Oh, like, yeah.
And it's the thing that but you've been able to be an artist, but you've been a Renaissance woman before that's even a cool sort of idea, and the people know to do it now, before it even had the tools to kind of do it. How did you get to that point? Because when I left and went back to New York and my career, you know, did whatever it is, that's when I saw a lot of growth happening here in Los Angeles. So was it just connected?
In Los Angeles in general? Or
yeah, and both.
Okay.
Both Los Angeles and you. Uh-huh. Was it just something that was happening naturally with the scene, or were you, because you host events, you DJ now, you book events, you obviously have done tribute stuff with the family Stone, you like, but all of this stuff, was it just you kind of falling into a scene, or was it you just being down to just be like, yeah, oh yeah, I'll do that, or yeah, I can do that, or yeah, I can do that?
Well, for one, as far as like the idea of being an artist, I never have liked the idea of being broke. And it was I never felt so much that I had to make art to the point that like I was down to be broke to do it. I just always have liked stability. Like I like to know that my bills are paid, and my, again, with my grandfather, when we would play, like when I was a kid, we would play business, and he would take out like a yellow legal notepad and be like, okay, we're going to set up a corporation. This is when I was like 7 years old.
That's great.
And then we named the corporation. It's like, what are we going to, what's our corporation going to do? Okay, we're going to open a mall. So it was like still relatable to me because I like to go to the mall. But so I was like, all right, so how many square feet will each, you know, store be? How many parking spaces do we need? And he would like, you know, give me money if I got good grades. He would like harp on not having credit card debt, like all that kind of stuff.
That's stuff I wish I had.
Yeah, and he was super, he also got me a piano. Like he would encourage me to be artistic and everything like that, but it was just like the idea of stability was always attractive and important to me. So not to say, I mean, you can be stable as an artist and everything, but I just kind of I'm also not a big gambler.
Yeah.
So the idea of like a carrot where if the possibility of being, especially, you know, if you're like, whatever, 10 years ago when less things were possible via the internet. It was like you have to make it big in order to make it in music or nothing at all. That was just my concept of it. And
but it was real.
Yeah, so I wasn't like, I didn't want to fully like, go after anything like that. And again, I don't think I'm 100% just like pure artist where it's like I have to be making art all the time. I enjoy helping to facilitate other people do things. I like typing on keyboards and like data entry and weird. I did one of those, you take those tests like what kind of job would you be good at or something, and mine was like data entry. It's like, come on, I'm way more fabulous than that. Like you answer like 100 questions. You can get flight attendant, lawyer, and mine was like data entry.
Damn, now they got you. Like typing. Huh?
Yeah, no, I've always loved typing. Like I used to just pretend like I was typing things with. Anyways, so but as far as then expanding like to do various things like you were saying, you said that I was like a Renaissance woman or whatever before, which maybe I was, but I also feel really supported and inspired by the current culture, at least in Los Angeles, of you can kind of like, I don't know, you can make money in different ways out of doing all kinds of things. And I really also believe that, going back to, again, like our blueprint or the things that we're gifted with, those things are special, and they actually, to me, in a way, among other things, have monetary value because other people don't have those things, and they would pay to be able to do. I mean, people literally pay. Like if someone's good at their hands and they end up becoming a masseuse, then people pay to get massages because they need that. And maybe I'm like good at communicating with people. Not everybody's good at that. And they would take a course, like a literal course, in order to do that, and maybe still never be on that level. So it's like if I'm naturally good at something, I'm all about like, okay, how can we make this work monetarily? It doesn't have to be like a specific trade, like that you're a musician and then you make songs and get paid for your songs. It can be a combination of things.
So where did it start in terms of the music scene in LA? Like, was it you, people just started asking you to do stuff? Or
what do you mean when you said the music thing?
Well,
like what are you talking about that I do?
Yeah, all of it. No, well, okay, let's start with, we'll just break them all down. So what was the first thing that you got paid for that was tangentially related to music? This is being filmed, by the way, if you're going to continue to do that.
That's okay. I'm just me. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's stalking us.
That's my hair.
It's good.
Should I close the window? Is it too loud?
No, you're good. Yeah, but like, what's the first thing that you got paid for that was, whether it be hosting, whether it be DJing, whether it be using your hands in an interesting way? Yeah, like what was the first thing that kind of was just like, oh, okay, this could be something?
Well, I think there was like two things probably. One was, I literally got a job working at a music venue.
So that was before anything else happened?
Yeah, before I like performed or anything. So I was working at the Boondocks.
I forgot about that era.
Yeah. So that was like the first job that I enjoyed out of college. I was Aaron Magruder's assistant at the Boondocks. Yeah. And that was really cool. Like, it was a fun job. And I was just like around a lot of talented people. And I did that for a year, and then but I was like, not really interested in television or like animation or comic strips.
And they took too long to put stuff out anyway.
No. I still had a job. It didn't matter. Like, my thing was consistent. And I didn't want to be like someone's assistant forever. But really, just at the time, I was like, and I want to make a little more money. So I have extra time to make money. So I reached out to somebody that I knew. Actually, well, okay, I won't do that. But I reached out to somebody that I knew that worked at a music venue, booking it. And I was like, are there any cocktail waitress positions that I could just make money on the weekends? Yeah. And he's like, I don't really know about that area, but I am looking for an assistant. And it was Temple Bar, and he was the booker of a venue called Temple Bar in Santa Monica, which was like a legendary music venue ahead of its time, booking music from around the world, getting people to come out to sold out shows. So I started doing that in like 2007, and I became his assistant. So that was music related, yeah. And I've been working for the same people, not directly him, but the owners ever since then. For the last like 12 years. So that's what's caused me to do a lot of the different like events where I'm booking people like DJs, you know, like with the Virgil and Townhouse. And it's also just connected me to a lot of other people doing other things. So one other thing it connected me to was a guy that I work with named Carlos Nino that we do booking together. And then he was like, I feel like you'd be a good DJ. Why don't you just come and spin some records at this thing? And I'm like, okay, I don't know, like I'll try it. And then I just brought records. I had a good selection. I got good feedback. And then another friend was a DJ. Was like, you can use this controller and like get some cool stuff done. So it's always just like one thing leads to another, and then just being open to trying stuff that sounds like it could be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's funny though, because putting the smart person hat on and looking back, the stuff is already inherently there though.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like part of being a good DJ, and this is what we talked about right before we started rolling, was your amazingly curated apartment. And that you essentially are a curator, an expert curator of sorts, just in general.
I don't know about expert, but...
You're an expert. You're an expert. Because it's in all these things, and clearly you do it well, because you're making money doing it, so. But when it comes to selecting music, when it comes to picking the right artists to perform at venues, or picking the right sort of DJs and talent and all that sort of stuff, clearly you have a knack for it. Is that what you're discovering later on as you look back? Or, you know, like, because we've traded songs before, and you find stuff that I don't know where this remix of this other version of this other remix came from. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, I've loved music for so long. Like, I feel like my taste and desire to, like, consume and discover music has always been, I guess, like, advanced or something. I don't know. I don't want to ever sound like Snoopy. But, you know, even when I was young, I always liked doing that. And then I remember when Napster came out, and I was just, like, on Napster trying to find, like, versions of everything, like, you know, and downloading stuff.
How many wrong versions of songs do you remember finding those?
Oh,
it would just be
yes.
Like what? Eve, DMX, and Ashanti, and, you know, produced by Girl Talk as a song? Like, somebody just put this together. This
or like weird snippets or whatever. I can't even remember it that well, but I remember downloading a lot. I kind of forget what the question was.
No, we were just talking about your knack for curation.
Yeah. So, I think also, I don't know if this is true, but I think that I've always been, partially out of necessity, really good at observing situations. And I think part of curating is observing what you have and, like, what to do with it, I guess you could say. Okay. And I think when I was younger, I, like, changed schools a lot. Not because I was, like, in the military or anything, but just my mom was like, like, we would maybe just move to a different part of San Francisco, and then it was a school in that district. Or my mom would be like, I don't like the school for you, or whatever. But I moved enough times that I remember thinking, okay, when I get here, I have to observe what everything's all about, because I need to make friends and get comfortable, and then, like, make the situation work. And I also remember thinking, like, okay, I always felt very different, where it's like, I can't be a duplicate of other people, so I have to be so cool that other people will come to me. Yeah. Right. You know, like, and so...
being as unique as possible in every scenario. So everybody's just like...
Yeah, like, figure it out and just do it your own way, so then people will, like... And I don't think it was, like, that... linear at the time, but when I think back, I think that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
So anyways, I think like when you're DJing, that's kind of what you're doing is you go into an environment, and it's always a new environment in some way, and you're reading the people and getting constant feedback, and again, that balance of wanting to please people, but also feel really unique at the same time.
Yeah.
And that, I think, yeah, so that's kind of been like an MO where it's like, I want people to like me, but I also want to be really unique and seem like I don't care if people like me. Let's just be real.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, being a DJ is being a good DJ, because you can be a bad DJ.
Yeah.
I've talked about this over the last couple of weeks with a few other DJs, and like, there are a lot of people now that have good Instagram followers that can just walk in and play the same set that they played the night before and not read the room in any, not have that and be able to middle along. So being a good DJ, yes, is this weird battle, and it comes back to, I guess, something that you always had naturally, which was the performative aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you're doing on stage is, you know, if you were to do the Irish jig and get a negative reaction out of it on stage, then you might adjust that for whatever you would do next. But the formative aspect of DJing is always a thing that's been attractive to me. Because it's definitely where I can get out my, like, oh, I'm going to get on the stage and I'm going to, you know, have some fun, but I'm also making sure the energy is going back and forth, not just one way.
Yeah.
Because that's the best parties or the best events.
Yes, absolutely. Always. Like, yeah, when I would perform, I'm sure you felt this too, like when you were like, or, I mean, you still do that, like, as a musical performance. Yeah. When the crowd gives you, like, I remember when I would perform, like, sing and stuff like that, and I was talking to the crowd, I would always, like, tell them or thank them for giving me energy, and, like, and I would always tell people, like, if they were to ask me, like, who would ask me this, how to be, like, a good audience member. But if you want to, no one would ask you that. That's what I'm saying. But my advice, though, is if you want to experience a good show as an audience member, is to give good energy to the person on stage. Because that's going to help them give a better show.
No, 100%. And you came there to enjoy yourself. You paid your money. Yeah. You've done all
Get into it.
Just give yourself to the thing in the most positive way, and you'll get back the amazing level.
And even, you know, like, some people, like, literally, they'll stand in the front row with their arms crossed, just, like, staring at the artist. And it's like, I get it. You want to, like, not everybody experiences things in the same way. Some people just want to, like, be plain and watch. But it's hard, like, you know, looking at someone in the audience that they're just, like, staring at you.
And it's hard not to find that one person in the crowd.
Yeah.
There's something about us as humans that we can seek
the darkness
all the time, especially because you could be on stage with thousands of people and there's like one person back in row 3 that's just like, and it's a girl that their boyfriend dragged them there and they didn't want to be there and they're angry with them, but because of that they're just angry at you. And they're just like, oh, what have I done wrong? What am I going to do?
Yeah. It's like a slow motion tangent.
Yeah. So no, it's fine because it actually leads. Because I don't know how. So how does the wallpaper thing come together?
I just feel like there's so many random. Also, the other thing too that I just feel like about myself is, it's not to this extreme. Like I don't say yes to everything, but it kind of makes me think of like Jim Carrey movie where he just like has to say yes to everything. And it's not. I'm not that extreme, but so many things you don't know until you try it, obviously, right? And it's like, a lot of times I just say yes to things to just try it, to have the experience, and then it leads to something greater. And sometimes it's something that, like, you make a lot of money doing. And it's like, oh, I just did this, like, for fun or whatever, you know? And it's also, like, in LA, there's more things like that, you know, opportunities to make really, like, random little money.
What I always tell people about LA, and you may disagree with me, so you're from here, so I'm not from LA, but from the California, is what is unique about LA is not that it is just kind of like a city operating at this very mechanical level, and that's just the way it is, as a lot of other cities are. But it's just that there is this weird veneer on top of, it's no better way to describe it than magic, because it's built on creating amazing fiction, like with Hollywood. And if you tap into that lane of magic, and that happens most of the time with relationships and with just kind of saying yes to things and just showing up places and just doing the stuff that you might not normally do if you were in another city, where it's just like, well, what am I going to get out of that? Well, what's, that you really experience LA in that way. Because I still don't remember how we got there, but I remember the random 4th of July that we had in like Malibu.
Yeah.
Where, we were at, I don't know whose house.
Yeah.
But it was just like a mansion on a mountain.
Yeah.
And then watching it was like Jack Nicholson or something sets the fireworks off. And it was like, I was nowhere near the music industry at that time. I was just running track, and you were at UCLA, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Man, it was just kind of like, we're here. And all of those experiences are what can lead to crazy things, that occur here. And that's what attracts people to LA. But sometimes people forget that is really an important part, is to always kind of like try to tap into that. But yeah, so someone just randomly was just kind of like, hey, join this group.
Are you talking about Wallpaper?
Yeah.
Oh, no. So, let's see. Okay, formal. So it was, there's this group called The Park, a rhythm section from the Bay Area that I was acquainted with. And they had, at the time, I'm from the Bay Area, but I was living in LA at the time. And they invited me to sing with them at this like showcase they were doing in Oakland. Yeah. And because I was still somewhat more singing at the time. Not to say that I'm like done singing, but like I was singing more. Yeah. And I performed at the showcase, and then the main guy of Wallpaper just was like, Oh yeah. Ricky, he goes by Ricky Reed.
Yeah, it's Ricky Reed now.
Yeah. Who's now like a big time producer with his own record label, killing the game. But at the time I guess he also, I don't even know what he goes by now. Like as a producer, maybe Wallpaper too. Reed. Does he go by Wallpaper?
I don't know.
I think it's more Ricky Reed.
The Lizzo Missy record that just came out, it was under still Ricky Reed.
Okay. So he saw me perform, and he was like, I love her, she's amazing, I want to do something with her. And then around a little bit later, maybe a few months later, under a year, he was changing up the live performance of Wallpaper, and invited me to come just do a couple shows for fun to see how it felt. Again, another example of like, let's just try it and see what happens, I think it's good for my personality too, because I'm not like I'm not non-committal, but like I like the feeling of like, let's just try it rather than let's commit to this, And then if it's like naturally turns into a commitment, cool, but I don't like to like prematurely commit to things. So he invited me to perform. It was super fun. They loved me, of course, because I'm awesome. And then from there, I was like a big part of Wallpaper. It was always his project. Like he was making most of the music. I sang a little bit on the records, but performance-wise, it changed it a lot. So we had fun. We did Warped Tour, as you know, and I had so much fun performing with Wallpaper because it was just like I could just be really crazy and connect with people. And my thing is that I like to, in whatever I do, to connect with people and like raise their vibration in some kind of way. And one of my favorite things when I was performing with Wallpaper is being the only woman in that group was cool because there was a lot of women fans. But I also was not like conforming to some cutesy, ideal of being a woman on stage. Like I always wore flat shoes so I could run like up and down the stage and just go crazy, bang my chest, jump on things, just like unbridled energy. And girls would literally come up to me and be like, oh my God, you really inspired me to just like go crazy. And like, I just love how you like make ugly faces, but they're awesome at the same time. Like it's never actually ugly. And then, it got even deeper. People would be like, when did you learn how to dance? Like, are you a dancer? And that for me was deep because I remember being in middle school at a dance and there was this Filipino girl that, like, under her breath, motioned at me to her friend, and we were like, I thought all black people could dance, like implying that I couldn't dance. And I remember her hearing her say that, and I was mortified. And I was like, I have to learn how to dance now. So to go from that to then performing, and people are like, where'd you learn how to dance? Taught myself.
Yeah.
Not, I mean, again, I don't even know, like, if I'm a good dancer or whatever, but
for those purposes.
Yeah, for those. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty good.
No,
I don't know.
you can dance.
Yeah.
It is funny though, because when I think about it in my head right now, you were like a pixie version of Flavor Flav.
Oh my god.
Because
that's so funny.
Because you were allowed to be this like chaotic thing on stage and you guys had your routines and stuff together too, where you were really interacting well. That it's just like, oh, he can play, even though the music was definitely not serious, he could play a little bit more straight and just allow you to.
Yeah. And I never, like, wanted to take away, like, make myself the center of attention. It was more like adding, like, accessories.
But it kind of did happen naturally, though, because even when you guys did, like, Coachella, like, you're doing the interview together, like, you become visibly a part of the group.
They would do that, include me in things, which I'm sure was, like, a choice from, like, it wasn't like some specific strategic conversation that I remember happening, but just naturally, I think they felt like that was good. Like, I also, like, at the time had, like, a pink afro.
Yeah, the pink afro thing went viral.
It did. It really did.
In looking up one of the links that I came across was like, it was like a Pinterest board.
Yes.
Just you.
Yeah.
That has to be. Even though you didn't grow up in the spotlight per se, is that normal to you? Because you're kind of like, oh yeah, well, my dad went through it, so that's just is what it is. Or does it still kind of, you still are just like, if someone like runs up on you and just like, oh my God, you know what I mean? You have pink hair. Like, is that, does it throw you off? Or you're just kind of like, oh, you know, this is just life.
I don't know. It's like, I think even now it gets more weird because people have more, like, even 5 years ago or 6 years ago, having, like, a photo that got so, what was the wording you used? Viral, yeah. That was when viral first started happening. Yeah. So that was really, like, cool and weird. But now if that happens, it's really not. Like, I mean, you see people on Twitter, and then they're like, it's like that classic thing. They tweet something, it gets like 10,000 whatever, and they're like, if you like this, check out. Like, oh God, right, yeah. So that happens all the time now for people. But I guess it's like I don't know. My concept of myself is really weird because on the one hand, I don't feel famous or anything at all, but I do feel that I'm like special and you know, like, I don't know.
No, I think it is. It's weird because you've been on TV, like you've been, you know.
I've been in a lot of things.
You've done this sort of stuff. You've been on tour. But then
it's also relative.
And then, especially in LA, there is this weird, not necessarily a separation, but there's clearly people that are like super famous.
Exactly.
Have to live in a gated community and it just be.
And you're having brunch and there's tons of people that are like trying to.
And no one gets to go to the, you know, you have to go to the Ivy because that's where the. Ivy too. I literally have the Ivy in my mind. Yeah, because that's where the right paparazzi is going to be, and they're going to take the picture of you and whoever you're with and all of that. But then there's just the existence of LA. It still offers most of the same trappings without having to have that piece of it.
Yeah.
But you might be at. Fan interactions are so weird to me. I was just talking about this with another DJ in LA, and the awkwardness. And I don't know why I feel bad about this, but I definitely do. Like, I was in Harlem at Whole Foods during like Christmas break or whatever. Oh no, Thanksgiving. And I'm just sitting there waiting for like my mom. Because she was coming off the bus from somewhere with my niece. And they're like, I'm just sitting there, just standing there, just in the midst of Whole Foods.
Yeah.
And like a dude just like walks up to me and just like, what up, yo, big fan.
Yeah.
And I gave him the limpest handshake because he caught me off guard. It was just like
yeah.
Well, like I actually wasn't even that. It was like I like shook his hand like it was at an interview. Like, hello, sir, thank you for that. And then after that, I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel you in that whatever little bit of notoriety, fame, or whatever that I've gotten. It still never feels like there's this vast different change.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I've also realized that when I sit with some of my friends, you included, you're like, wait a minute. At least for me, like the ideas that I had about what I wanted to do in college, the ideas that I had about what I imagined my life would be, when they start to come together, you're like, wait a minute, I'm on the other side of the curtain now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm actually on the side where the sausage is made, and it happens so naturally and gradually that you don't even realize it's there, but then you're just like living in it.
That reminds me of something that I like to think about every now and again, like if I'm not achieving or accomplishing something right now that I want to, or even like, oh, I have this DJ gig that I don't feel like doing or whatever. Whatever it's like a negative feeling about something I'm up to, is to sit and think, hey, remember when you were thinking about wanting to do the thing that you're doing right now? You're doing right now the thing, like, it's so easy to like, while you're doing it, it doesn't feel special or new, or you're thinking about the next thing you want to do, and it's like, yo, you have think about what you've done so far.
Yeah.
You've gotten places.
Yeah, no, and I've been going through definitely that process too, where I would just like, when it comes to gigs, when it comes to all of that, where I'll just be like, sometimes I'll not necessarily phone it in, but I know because I've done enough gigs and I've DJed for so long, it's just like, oh yeah, I can do this without even really thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And then I've just shifted to no. Treat everything like, oh man, I'm grateful to be here. Mm-hmm. Someone's paying me to do this thing. It's gonna help me pay my phone bill, help me pay this whatever. So let me give, again, going back to like, even in small spaces or even in awkward spaces, giving a certain amount of energy out. And then when you start to see a couple of those flecks come back, then just really diving into it. Because I think sometimes, especially after years of doing similar things or, being very used to it, you can just walk into a room, even just walking into a room at a party or just at an event or whatever, and just be like, oh, this same whole thing again. When 5 years before or whatever, you would have just been like, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? What are you, and that's the stuff that got you there. And then you kind of just, like, oh, I'm just got to do this. I'll show my face at this thing. And you could just be enjoying it. Mm-hmm. It's a conscious decision to just be like, no, I'm going to enjoy this.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about the idea of like celebration recently. Like, it's your birthday. Celebrate your birthday. It's like, okay, I'm celebrating the fact that I was born. Cool. Like, worthwhile celebration. Absolutely. And it's like, if you can celebrate the fact that you were born, you can celebrate anything. Though.
Literally.
You could celebrate, like, washing your face in the morning could be a celebration of, like, waking up that day. And I was just thinking about, like, how can I look at more of everything I do? It doesn't have to be everything. Like, I'm not, like, going to be Buddha or whatever. Like, but just thinking about more of the daily or smaller things I do as a celebration.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that I think oftentimes we don't appreciate just... It's so easy for us to either be thinking backwards or forwards, that we're not... I mean, it is kind of really trying to become like Buddha, though. To become in the moment where you're like, no, in this moment, this thing that's occurring, because all you really have is the moment. Whatever you have to do later, whatever I have to do later, doesn't exist yet until you're in the moment when it exists. And whatever happened has already happened. So it's just kind of like learning to really, just enjoy that, celebrate that.
I'd even go as far as to say, because I do try to like become like the Buddha as much as possible. But then, you know, you can get like down on yourself, like, oh, I'm not being present, whatever. And it's like, well, celebrate the fact that you're also having a human experience.
Yeah.
And there's a point to being human, which is not to be just like perfect all the time or whatever. Like, it's okay to also, while you're trying to elevate, you know, and be high vibration, you're human for a short time. So it's okay.
Let yourself off.
Let yourself be human too.
No, I agree. You've navigated this crazy space, and now you've just started a brand new show on KCRW.
Yeah.
Was that something that you were shooting for, or was it just, again...
I don't try anything. No, I'm just kidding. I have always, or not always, but for a while I've had in my mind that I would like to host a TV show or a radio show. And
you're DJing on TV as well, right? Or you were?
I did do that for a little bit, but I'm not doing that anymore. Okay. But yeah, because I also was like, okay, if you do a DJ or radio show, that allows you to play music in a different way than like DJing a party. So before I ever did KCRW, I was just thinking like, should I approach KCRW sometime about doing that? I know so many people that work there. And then I was like, I'm not ready. I don't want to commit, or I don't know, like, I don't know yet. And then it also I didn't forget, like, my dad started out as a radio DJ too, which I was like, oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, just so you posted your thing a little while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my voice, too, people have said, like, you sound like you could be on, you know, X, Y, and Z. So I was like, okay, maybe that's the thing I should try at some point. And then just really naturally, they actually reached out to me and they're like, can you submit a demo? I think someone recommended me or something for it. So again, it wasn't actually Anthony.
Oh, really?
I think maybe like he co-signed and he's helped me a lot along the way. But for this particular thing, it was actually the guy that I originally worked for at Temple Bar, Dexter. Dexter Story. I think he was talking with the lady who programs the DJs, Ariana. So they reached out to me and I was like, okay, well, yeah, again, just kind of like, okay, you know, just like try submitting a demo and see what happens. And I think that's such a good thing too, because a lot of times we get so far ahead of ourselves, like, well, I don't know what it's gonna be like if I'm on the radio and like da-da-da-da-da. It's like, you don't even have to like, or I think people, let me not get ahead of myself. But before even thinking about what am I going to be like on the radio, it's just like submit a demo and see if they like it. See what happens. Interview for the job. See what happens. Do they hire you or not? And then think about like...
There is a Seth Godin. I don't know if you... I'll put you on that.
But yeah.
He talked about an interesting thing from the other side, but I think it's related. And the idea of sunken costs and how people oftentimes like make decisions because they're just like, well, I put 4 years into law school, so I have to be a lawyer. Mm-hmm. When they don't want to be a lawyer. Mm-hmm. Or I've done this for this long and been in this relationship this long, so I have to keep going because I've spent 5 years here, so I have to continue on. Instead of looking at those decisions as this was a gift that your past self gave to you, that you have this experience. But your decision in this moment has nothing to do with what happened before. You can decide to go in either direction, and you have the best resources to go in those directions because your past self gave you that sort of experience. And what I've been trying to do is, flipping back to what you're talking about, is oftentimes, especially people who overthink, which I think is actually most people, is they, the roadblocks immediately pop in their head before they, 10 steps ahead, or 5 steps ahead, before they've even gotten to step 0.5, not even step 1. So yeah, you're already just like, you're like, submit a demo to KCRW, and you're like, but if I get this, I mean, I don't know if I could do it at this time.
Yeah, exactly.
And you just literally built the whole world. And I guess it's what we've needed to do as humans for a long time, because it's one of those things where you're just like, if I go outside at night, and there's a lion out there, he could kill me, and those sort of, but I don't know how much it plays in this version of civilization now.
Right.
And you have to be willing to just be like, yeah, do the first step first. But a lot of people don't do that. It's not even just about being, whether you call yourself a free spirit or not. I think it just literally is just about freeing yourself up to just do the basics. Like, just get to the next step. Because whatever happens, you're going to be immediately the person that you were without the options is totally different than the person with the option. Because you're like, they're like, oh, it's dope, you have the job. And you're like, okay, that is you didn't have the job before. You were just, and you don't know what you don't know what the options are, you don't know what they're gonna give you. So all of those things, and I've been trying to figure this out myself too, because trying to endeavor with the podcast and trying to endeavor with a bunch of things, you're just like, where is this going to be in 6 months? And it's just like, no, just one foot in front of the other. And that's really all it comes down to, because it's all you can do. Because 6 months from now, you'll look back and you'll just be like, I didn't expect to be here.
Yeah.
You never know how it'll get there.
Yeah, or maybe that's preparing you for something else. Like, someone needs you to host a TV show, and it's like the experience you got from your podcast prepared you for that.
Exactly, and you would have never thought about
that. And you wouldn't have been ready for that opportunity. For some reason, what you were saying, too, made me think about another thing that keeps coming up is, this is not related to, like, career per se, it could be anything, but, like, I've heard a couple of people lately kind of, like, regretting choices that they've made, right? Or getting down on themselves, like, that was such a mistake, I don't know why I did that, and having trouble letting go of things that they chose to do. And it's like, yo, you know now that you shouldn't have done that thing because you did that thing. So it's almost like you're punishing a person who doesn't have the knowledge for like it's like punishing a child who doesn't know how to do something for not being able to know how to do that. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, exactly.
Like, we punish our past selves based on the current wisdom that we now have, based on going through that thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, give your past self a break. They didn't know. Like, literally look at it like it's a different person. Like, she didn't know.
Yeah.
You know now. She didn't know then. It's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing to regret. There's nothing to be, like, mad at that person about.
Yeah. If you did not gain that experience, you wouldn't have gained that knowledge.
Yeah. The only reason you think that you have the right to be mad at that person is because you have the knowledge because you were that person. That's the only reason why you think you're all high and mighty now against your former self.
Out here just talking shit to myself.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
You know?
No, it's absolutely, I mean, it's 100% correct. And again, it comes back to people need to let themselves off the hook more.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I think I'm good.
What's next for me? Is that what you asked?
No, well, KCRW is obviously, I look forward to it. Try to make sure that I am.
What I want to do is, continue to have a great show, build it, then get more of a regular slot there. Just keep going. It's been like an organic process, which has been nice. I think a lot of it has been like, I think, again, I don't know if this is an LA thing, if it's the world that I live in, but it's like, there was a time in the past where it was like, there was these jobs and you could be like, I'm going to pick that job or that job. And now I feel like you can just kind of carve out your own career, like build it yourself, build a career, whatever. And so even the current job that I have that I've been working with for 12 years, I started out as an assistant with certain hours, and then little by little, it's now become a job where I make up my own hours and I can work from home if I need to, and I kind of just tell them when I'm going to take a vacation, you know? But it's like, I still do work just as hard.
Yeah, you still do the work. I mean, you were on tour, still booking.
I mean, and that was part of me going on tour and still being able to do the work. They're like, well, shit, if she can go on tour and still do the work, like, she's got this, you know? And so I created the job that I have now, and it also gives me the freedom to then DJ and do artistic things. But it wasn't ever a job. Like, I don't even have a title. So I couldn't have gone to college specifically for this job because it's just a reflection. That's the thing that I was telling somebody else too, is like, your job maybe can be like a reflection just of who you are put into like a working format that you get paid for, you know? So anyways,
What one piece of advice, we'll end on this. What one piece of advice do you either give your little sister or somebody young kind of coming up that would like to not emulate exactly what you have going on, but kind of just like, I like what you do, I love what you do, how do I get there?
That's so hard to say because everybody's so different, you know? Like, even my sister, she's so different than I am that like, because I think, I don't know. But one thing that I think about as far as when you are doing something and that thing being successful is to share as much as you can authentic enthusiasm with what you're doing. So, for example, with DJing, I could just be like, just doing my DJ gigs and showing up and doing them. And I could be enthusiastic at the gig. Great, awesome. But then when you like are constantly letting people know about the gigs you have coming up, how much you enjoyed that gig, showing da-da-da-da, or even if all the gigs I'm doing don't require any promotion, still post about all the things you have coming up because you're constantly reminding people that you do that thing, especially in this world where people get really distracted. And then it's like, if I'm enthusiastic about it, people just, if they're then in a situation where they're like, I need a DJ, then they're just going to remember me because they'll see my face and the fact that I posted it and they're like, Novena's a DJ, you know? And then I think about also when as a viewer, it doesn't matter how refined your shit is. You don't have to like produce a special video or whatever, because that's not even that special anymore. Like to do it on social media. I think the thing that really connects with people is when you're being authentic. And when people can see that you're tapped into something that's bringing you joy. So you can just do like a raggedy video, but if you just are being authentic, then people are like, yeah, I like that. You know what I mean? So that's an advice that I give is like how to enthusiastically share what you're up to is a way to organically market yourself.
Yeah, and understand that you now, especially now, are the commodity. Mm-hmm. You know, I think for a long time people put the commodity or their worth in what the job was. And now it's just kind of like, we don't have the luxury of just going and working at a factory or a white-collar job for 30 years and retiring.
Yeah.
And just be like, oh, yeah, well, that happened, and now I can live my life at 65. Mm-hmm. You know, so because we don't have that, and even you having the job as long as you had is maybe the first person I know that has had a job that long. Literally, because it's just like everybody every couple of years is turning over and understanding that, like, yeah, you are the most important piece of that. And I guess if you can present that correctly to the world, then...
And also, like, the way that you interact with people, like, being gracious, not being overly difficult to work with, you know, like, just all that kind of stuff, like...
Do you... That matters. This is a more complicated question than I wanted, but let's fucking go. Okay. In the current social environment that we're in now, do you find that harder to do? In other words, are you more, everyone has, and I'm sure every woman has been aware for forever about how so many of your interactions, especially with men, are like these really weird gray zones where they might be just trying to shoot their shot, but then actually want to get some work done.
Oh, yeah.
You know, whatever. Is it hard to navigate those sort of spaces now, or do you kind of just are just like, I'm here, I'm worth it, and, you know, take it or leave it?
It's, oh man, that's hard to say. You're talking about like with men?
Yes, because there's so many. I mean, I'm sure you interact probably with mostly men in the industry.
I don't really know. Like
Have you found yourself acting differently?
I'm sure that I act differently, but I've also been, I don't know, for whatever reason, I haven't, or maybe I'm just blind, haven't been in like too many situations where I just feel so, like, it's like a blatant thing like that. I don't know. I think that, setting up your boundaries is good from the beginning in a pleasant way.
Yeah.
And I think that if you can feel, the more comfortable you can feel and confident with like letting people know your boundaries, then the energy that you like relay those boundaries with isn't even going to seem dramatic. Because I think some people even feel like, I don't want to, like they feel self-conscious about setting boundaries because they think they're going to come across like over the top or something. Yeah. And then they have that energy behind it, and then they're like, and then the person is like, you're being weird or whatever, right? So I think that helps me, like, for example, I mean, and a lot of it isn't even just like with men stuff, but people will find my information in order, like, they want me to book them as a DJ or something at one of the venues I book for, and then they'll like DM me on Instagram. And I could respond to them there and but I'm like, no, this is not the appropriate place. So I'll just be like, please contact me here if you know, when we can talk there. And it's, or even once people are booking me, then it's like, they'll add me as a friend, or once I do book them, they'll add me as a friend on Facebook. I'm like, I don't need to be your friend on Facebook. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like, so stuff like that, and then just being okay with like, the thing is, you never really know for sure. So I don't think it makes sense to then
indict.
Yeah, exactly, or just assume that someone has something negative, or maybe subconsciously they are interested in you, but they also want to get something done. Yeah. So not everybody's black and white, even in their own desires. Yeah. It's like they're open to something else. Exactly. You know what I mean? And they might try it, but it doesn't have to become this. We're all humans again. Like it doesn't have to become this big thing. Like
yeah, I think it's funny because I think the biggest problem that we have as humans is that we assume everything is a zero-sum game and that everything is black or white. Nothing ever really is. Like, you might be attracted to that person, which is why you decided to talk to them.
Totally.
But then when you started talking to them, you're like, oh, this person would be perfect for this thing that I do. Right? But the line was blurry the entire time, but that still led to the outcome. And in that, they might have just been like, they're so perfect for that, like I would never even try to talk to them. Or they might be like, maybe either one can happen. Or maybe I need to flirt because maybe that it'll make that thing happen.
And uncomfortable situations can happen with any scenario. Yeah. It doesn't have to be like, oh, this is because of the dynamic of men and women, and like there are people that like work together and then fall in love. So that person might be hoping that that's going to happen for them, and you're not trying to do that. Like, it's just, I don't know, we can't like just avoid every single thing and think that everything is going to be, like you said, black and white, because we are human beings, and we're constantly getting input from different parts of ourselves at once about how we feel about a person, whether we know it or not, whether we like it or not. You know, you might end up being with certain people of the same race or like country or whatever, not because you're like racist, but there's just something in there that you're drawn to that person, you know what I mean? And then whatever. So I don't know. I don't like to, it's hard for me to say because everybody has different things that they're comfortable with. Some people are more confident. Some people are better at asserting themselves. Some people are, I mean, even like one of the things that is why I don't perform as a singer is because there is a certain amount of vulnerability being a singer on stage that is challenging for me. That makes me like, is one reason that like I don't like to do it as much, you know? So those people that are vulnerable in that way, I could see that they feel more exposed in other ways too. So
in the end, I think everyone just needs to implore a little more empathy.
Yes, and have conversations and be okay with speaking on things that are uncomfortable rather than just not saying anything and being uncomfortable.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Let's keep this comfortable.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We can go on and on. I'm still going to talk to you about some things after this.
Oh, I have something
like Daniel
100% to talk to you about. But thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. This was cool, man.
Yeah.
She's like here.